Hello and welcome to another Friday. Unfortunately, Marco could not be here today, so we are going to still have it without him. But I'm here, Debbie's here, and we have our special guest that we mentioned last week, a mystery guest. And today we are so excited to have Dr. Aviva Legatt. Aviva, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Yep. And as always, we start with the Friday Mentor Project update with Debbie. So Debbie, what's some of the updates? It's always fun to hear what's going on, new and exciting at the Mentor Project. Tell us.
Sure, we do have some really cool updates. One is that our Tanzania page is up and running. You can check that out and follow along with what we're doing and bringing art to cartooning in particular to a school in Tanzania with artist and cartoonist Justin Thompson. And we are getting ready to pick our next wave of Larry Heiser Art Scholars. So that will be this year. They will be getting free art instruction throughout the year by Justin. And so please check that page out. You'll learn more about what we're doing, what we're up to.
When is the Debbie, just the details of that. So it is in Larry's memory. And so, excuse me, people can contribute to that scholarship. And when is the scholarship awarded?
So the students should be getting picked in March.
In March.
And yeah, so, Larry Heiser was an artist. And so the art scholarship is going towards art wherever we can give scholarship to art. This year, we're giving it to the new Tina's School in Sharati, Tanzania. And we did that last year. It was a great success. 15 students completed it. You'll get to see a picture of the students on the website who received their certificates after completing it. We'll be showing some of their pictures that they've drawn throughout the year, the beginning and how they ended. Justin is going from July 4th through July 20th. He spends a lot of time in the school with the students, and then afterwards, he teaches them on Zoom. The really remarkable thing about all of our mentors is that he goes the extra mile and gets up at 4 a.m. to make sure that he meets their after school hour so that he can be there when they need him, which is pretty darn cool, I think. So check that out.
And I just want to underscore about that again. I want to really highlight this scholarship because I knew Larry, as you know Larry, Debbie, and many of us knew Larry. You knew him very well. And just to really underscore the importance of this scholarship and just to let people know, you can donate in his honor to this specific project, but you can also donate in general to the Mentor Project in his name. I know a lot of people knew him and they want to contribute. So don't feel that, March is his month, here in the Mentor Project. We are celebrating his life, his legacy, and his memory lives on. And so if you'd like to contribute, again, it can be to Tanzania or it can be any contribution made to the Mentor Project in his memory. So I just want to say thank you for those that do contribute. And now continue, Debbie.
For sure. So thank you for that. So yes, and please check out our mentor page. Our mentors are up on our page, and we have really, thank you to Joseph Marney. He has been doing our website for a few years now, and the work that he does is tremendous, but our mentor page is really great. You can click and see a bio. You can look at our mentors and find out if there's somebody who you really think you would like to connect with based on the keywords that they have associated with their photos and their bios. So check out the mentor page. And if you want to get mentorship or if you know someone who does, it's just as easy as clicking the become a mentee button that is on the screen. And the last thing is I'm super excited that Aviva is presenting today. My kids went to college and I used Aviva's advice when I was going through the process. And it's really good practical advice that's so helpful because it is an overwhelming process for many people like it was for me. So take it away, you two.
Okay, great. Thanks for the updates, Debbie. And oftentimes we talk about having just come from our Friday mentor meetup, and Aviva gave a wonderful presentation to the mentors, and we were all really learning so much. And I'll just add that in the future, and Debbie, maybe you want to also do another reminder to people that we do have Mentor Mondays. I don't know if tickets are still available for Monday, but you can, check that out as well. And I think that's on the website, or there might be a link put up too. And we are hoping that Aviva will be joining us on a Mentor Monday for the mentees, for parents, for anybody that's going to be going through this college process. So look out for that, and we'll keep you posted as well. So again, welcome, Aviva. It's so good to have seen you present. And, to give the brief overview today, one of the things that I was really impressed with, besides everything that you said, was really you have a model that you put together, and it's called the X Factor, the College Admissions X Factor. Did I get that right?
Yes, that's right.
And I think you talk about this in your upcoming book, which you will also talk about. But please, would you like to tell us about this fabulous model?
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. My name is Aviva Legatt. I'm the founder of a company called Ivy Insight, and I'm the author of a book called Get Real and Get In with St. Martin's Press. And I've developed this college admissions X Factor model over my 10 years of working one-to-one with students and families from all over the United States, as well as from abroad. And what this model is essentially a way for students and families to understand the context within which their students are evaluated, and helps you to get some ideas of things that you would be thinking about as you move forward in the college process. So the most important layer for the students is really the middle layer. So this is about how the students may package themselves, or how they may share their story, if you will. So the factors that the admissions offices are going to be looking at are their academic background. So important to be getting as strong grades as you can in those classes. The second piece is the intellectual vitality. So that's how students are extending their academic interests outside of the classroom. The third is extracurriculars. So that would be how students are developing their leadership, and what is the impact of that leadership on their school and their community. And then life experiences. So those are the kinds of things that, we may be born with, or circumstances that students may have lived through that have shaped their character, and that colleges can infer as their ability to contribute to campus life. And then the last piece that the students will want to be aware of is their selected major. So it's important for students and families to think about what is the alignment of their academic, extracurricular, life experiences, and intellectual vitality. How does that relate to what they want to study in college? And some people may say, well, why do you have to choose a major? You're only 17, 18 years old. Well, the importance of selecting a major is that it gives a grounding for the student's narrative, so that whatever they're saying they want to study, it actually makes sense with what their background experiences are. And I think it's a great exercise for students to go through as well, to pick a potential major for college, because it ensures that they really understand what they're about to study before they get there. Even if they change their minds once they get to campus, it's really helpful to have an idea of what you want to study before you go, because that gives more purpose and intention behind the study. So that's the student layer. These are the kinds of things that students have some control over in the case of their academic, extracurricular, intellectual vitality choices and their majors, and then some things that they have less control over, for example, their circumstances and their life experiences. Now,
Aviva,
as you get...
Aviva, just to interrupt, some people actually will not be seeing this slide because they're just listening and not looking at it. So maybe just give a description visual for those that are listening that don't have this chart in front of them.
Thank you. So I'll do that. So the outer two layers of my model describe really the external forces that are driving decision making. So the admissions decisions, whether they're acceptance, denial, deferment, they're not necessarily about the person, right? So even if you get in, you could be happy to get in, but don't take it personally, and don't take it personally if you don't get in as well, because really how institutions are selecting students is almost more important than what the student has done in terms of if that student will actually rise to top or not. So some of the external factors will include the relationship between the student's high school and the university. It may include things that are outside of the university itself, such as the recent Supreme Court ruling. that stated that race cannot be explicitly considered as part of the admissions process. And then admissions trends such as test optional admissions, and that trend may end up swinging back towards test required with the advent of the adaptation of the SAT with Dartmouth as well as MIT.
And I just want to highlight something that you said that's so important from my perspective is there's so, as we all know, there's so much pressure, and even more pressure today on kids' acceptance or rejection letters. And, society puts a lot of pressure on, families put a lot, there's so much meaning put on that. And I just want to underscore what you said, that in many ways, it's not about the student, and not to take that as a way of either feeling really bad about yourself or, feel good about yourself, but don't make it where you're judging than other kids as well. Because that really has to do with so much in terms of the way kids today see themselves, that it's really about the match. And if you don't get in, it's not about you. It's just that it just wasn't right for many, many reasons. And we can talk more about that in the future. And if I could just say, so if you're not seeing this model, what would you call it? There's almost like there's ovals, and there's 3 ovals, and within those ovals, there's different categories. And then in the middle one, which was the first one that you were talking about, there's a lot of interlooping circles that have all the different factors. And so if you are just listening, we will tell you where to get Aviva's book, because I'm sure is this page actually in there? Is that in the book?
Yeah, so unfortunately it didn't make it to the book, but you can find it on my website, which is ivinsight.com. So you can find it there. And yeah, the idea is really just to help students and families just have a baseline for how to even start thinking about this process. And this doesn't even cover, of course, the nuts and bolts of what you actually have to do to apply to college, but just to share that, the admissions decision isn't necessarily about you. And I talk a lot about this in my book, because I talk in my book about how I had a really difficult high school and high school to college experience, because I put a lot of pressure on myself for the application process. I was located in the town of Princeton, right where the university is, and there were a lot of people who were talking about college. And in fact, one of my closest friends and I, we applied to college at the same time. She applied early decision to Columbia, and or it was Penn actually. She applied early decision to Penn, and I applied early decision to NYU, and she was rejected and I was accepted. And we didn't even, not to say that it caused a fight, but she just didn't even want to talk to me because I was into college and she wasn't. And she had to go through, a period of psychotherapy even after this decision. But I'm just here to say that, it doesn't have to be this way, that, you can really think about this process in a way that just encapsulates the bigger forces behind it to help you understand what's going into it. And so the idea behind understanding what's going into it is that students can make authentic, aligned choices to who they are and what they ultimately want to get out of their college education, so that they're not just kind of running all over the place trying to do what, quote, looks good for colleges, but they're actually doing things that elevate them as a person and look beyond college.
Debbie, you just went through this with your 2 kids. What would be something that you would want Aviva to highlight for people who are going through it now, having just been coming off of that train ride?
I think that the one thing is that, and you mentioned this in the talk before, it really is something that's very individual for each kid, and you have to look at it in that way. So your practical advice is something that, it's going to be different if you have 2 different kids. If you have a neurodivergent kid versus you have a kid who, has been excelling in one particular path, you're going to be looking at that kid in 2 different ways. And I think that was some of the important advice that, I took away. There's many more pieces of advice that I took away from you, but I think that you really helped some of the people who are on the call this morning by letting them know how you can navigate in different ways with different kids. And that was one of the areas that I'd like to highlight, that it's not a box. That's why I guess you have 3 layers.
Right there. Exactly. I think that's a wonderful point to highlight, and everybody is on their own journey. Right. And so the idea behind the model too is to say, here's how you can optimize your candidacy, but also you're doing so in a way that navigate to your strengths and to what's best for the student, because as I was highlighting on our call, it's important to have that academic fit, but the social emotional connection piece with the college is equally, if not more important, because this is their day-to-day living that the student has to be at this university. So they need to have the right supports, whatever support means to them. They need to have the right infrastructure so that they can be successful in all realms.
So we only have a minute or two left, and I have one final question, which is related to something you said. I see this a lot in my work with families, and maybe you can just say, I'm sure you can talk on this for hours, but one or two things. What do you recommend to families where what the parents want for the child is different than what the student wants? So the families, the parents may want them to go to either a legacy school or to a school that they didn't go to. And the student is saying, nope, that's not what I want. That's not my dream. What do you say to those situations?
Yes. So I realize that this statement is going to sound very self-interested, but I would say hire a consultant, because the consultant can be sort of the voice of reason, if you will, between the student and the parent. And what I try to do is acknowledge and validate both of their perspectives and try to come to some middle ground of, okay, we know you're really attached to your institution, and, I think that makes sense. What do you think might be right for your student, or how do you feel this might be right for your student at this point in time? So I don't often see that. Luckily, occasionally I do. And if the parent is really kind of relentless about that, honestly, it's probably not a client I would take on, because that is a process that is not going to be set up for success if the student has no agency in where they're applying. But what I try to do, and I have a student I'm thinking of now, sometimes the parent and the student just have competing views. Parent thinks that the kid should do a bunch of tours. He's more skeptical. So I just try to, say what I think, and then just get the student's feedback on what he thinks he should do and why. And then oftentimes, I do think that parents should feel free to set structures and boundaries behind what kinds of colleges that their students are applying to. For example, maybe they cannot spend more than XYZ amount, or they need them to be within a certain distance. But within those structures, the students need to have some agency and some ownership, because ultimately this is the next step to their adulthood. So if they're not giving that chance to define those goals to some extent on their own, they're not really going to be well prepared when they get there.
Great points. Great points. This is wonderful. There's so much more to say. Could you tell us again what your book is called and where people can order it from?
Thank you. It's called Get Real and Get In. It's at all the major retailers. And you can also visit my website at ivinsight.com. We have a free resume template for the college process, so you want to check that out. And if you have any questions that come up, you can email info@ivinsight.com, and we could talk about summer research projects, college admissions, and all of the good things that go along with preparing for this very daunting, but what can be a very rewarding process.
So I would also add that if you want to get in touch with Aviva, to please go on the Mentor Project's website, and you can get in touch with her there as well. So this has been great. We hope you enjoyed another Mentor Project podcast, our weekly updates. Thank you, Aviva, again. We look forward to seeing you hopefully back here on this show, but also on a Mentor Monday. And Debbie, have a great mentoring week, and we look forward to some more updates next week. And Marco, we miss you, and we hope you're either back either next week or the week after, because I know you're on some journey right now, and hope all is great. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye, have a great week.